Good morning. Welcome to Radio สราญรม I'm นัชชา พุทธินันท์
Good morning. I'm กนกพรรณ นสวนานนท์ and welcome back to Spice of Asia with the continuation of Unlock the Landlocked series, the series about Central Asia countries. And for the last show, we discussed about the Central Asian history since the nomads or the ancient era up to the Soviet era and the modern time.
Yes, so that covers quite a lot of time.
Yeah.
And one of the most impressive people during the history of Central Asia is Gengkiskhan.
Yeah, I think everyone knows about his name very well.
So I think we should talk about him a little bit more, like we said during the last show that we're gonna discuss about this great man who everyone knows from the history. And so let's start with a bit of biography of Gengkiskhan. So Genghis Khan was born in Temujin. So he was born in the name Temujin, and he was the founder and great Khan of Mongol Empire. And then he became the largest contiguous empire in the history after his demise. So he came to power by uniting many of the nomadic tribes of Northeast Asia. And after founding the Mongol Empire and being proclaimed Genghis Khan, he started the Mongol invasion that resulted in the conquest of most of Eurasia. So the Eurasia is the vast area between Asia and Europe. So he conquered that area, and the conquered included raids and invasions of the Karakhitan Khanate, the Caucasus, the Khwarezmid Empire, the Western Xia and Jin dynasty. So a lot of
such a vast empire.
Vast area.
Can you imagine how big it is?
Yes.
I mean, how
not only the area, but many groups of people who stayed during that time as well. So by the end of his life, the Mongol Empire occupied a substantial portion of Central Asia and China. Yeah. So only this is very great achievement for one person.
Yeah.
So before Genghis Khan died, he assigned his successor and split his empire into khanates among his sons and grandsons. And he died in 1227 after defeating the Western Xia. And he was buried in an unmarked grave somewhere in Mongolia. The historian didn't know the location, the exact location, but probably in Mongolia. And his descendants extend the Mongol Empire across most of Eurasia by conquering and creating vassal states out of all of modern-day China, Korea, the Caucasus, Central Asia, and substantial portions of modern Eastern Europe, Russia, and Southwest Asia as well. So, and many of these invasions repeated the earlier large-scale slaughters of local populations. As a result, Genghis Khan and his empire have a fearsome reputation in local history. I guess by ruling such vast area, it's a mix of the fearsome of people and your ability to rule as well. So not surprisingly, people at that time fear of his rule.
Yeah, because he's the great man during that time, and he has to be like a strong man.
Yes, I guess with the environment of the area, the picture of strong men is needed to rule as well.
I agree with that.
So Beyond his military accomplishments, Genghis Khan also advanced the Mongol Empire in other ways as well. He decreed the adoption of the Uyghur script as the Mongol Empire's writing system. He also practiced meritocracy and encourages religious tolerance in the Mongol Empire while unifying the nomadic tribes of Northeast Asia. The present-day Mongolians regard him as the founding father of Mongolia. So, even though condemned throughout most of history for the brutality of his campaign, Genghis Khan is also credited with bringing the Silk Road under one cohesive political environment. This increased communication and trade from Northeast Asia to Muslim Southwest Asia and Christian Europe, thus expanding the horizons of all three cultures area.
Yeah. I would like to say something about the Mongolian history, but I don't know about it so much, but I've got a Mongolian friend, and if we ask about their prouding history, they always say about this period, the period of Genghis Khan.
Yes. So, Kun Kanokpan will have some history about his early life of Genghis Khan, right?
Of course. I would love to say about his early life. Actually, he's born in north-central Mongolia around 1162. Genghis Khan was originally named Temujin after a Tatar chieftain that's his father. And his father, his name was Yesuke, and then he was captured. And then young Temujin was a member of the Borigin tribe and a descendant of Kabul Khan, who briefly united Mongols against the Jin or Qin dynasty of northern China in the early 11th century. Not century, but in the 11th. According to the secret history of the Mongols, Temujin was born with a blood clot in his hand and a sign in Mongol folklore that he was destined to become a leader. His mother, her name was Hoelun, taught him the grim reality of living in turbulent Mongol tribal society and the need for alliances.
I guess this is the first political studies of him, like his mother and his father taught him about how to live in a very chaotic and nomadic society. So I guess this is the first basis of where he learned how to rule
I guess so.
the empire.
Yes. And when he was 9, his father took him to live with the family of his future bride, Bort. On the return trip home, Yesuke, his father, encountered members of the rival Tatar tribe who invited him to a meal where he was poisoned for past against the Tatars. Upon hearing of his father's death, Temujin returned home to claim his position as clan chief. However, the clan refused to recognize the young boy's leadership and ostracized his family of younger brothers and half-brothers to near refugee status. The pressure on the family was great, and in a dispute over the spoils of a hunting expedition, Temujin quarreled with and killed his half-brother. His name was Bekter, confirming his position as head of the family. And then when Temujin was 16 years old, he married with a girl that he was planned to marry to. Her name, as I told you, her name was Bort. And he married to this girl to cement the alliance between the tribes, the two tribes. And then soon after, Bort was kidnapped by the rival Murkid tribe and given to a chieftain as a wife. And then Temujin was able to rescue her, and soon after she gave birth to her first son. And her first son was Joshi. So it is about his family. And with birth, Temujin had 4 sons and many other children with other wives. And as was Mongolian custom, however, only his male children and with bosses qualified for succession in the family.
Yeah, so before Temujin became Genghis Khan, he was about 20, and he was captured in a raid by former family allies and temporarily enslaved. And then he escaped with the help of a sympathetic capture and joined his brothers and several other clansmen to form a fighting unit. Temujin began his slow ascent to power by building a large army of more than 20,000 men. And he set out to destroy traditional divisions among the various tribes and unite the Mongols under his rules. So even though he just 20, he started to show
his ability.
Yes.
He began to fight against.
Yes, and become a ruler.
Yeah.
And then through the combination of outstanding military tactics and merciless brutality, Temujin avenged his father's murder by decimating the Tatar army and ordered the killing of every Tatar male who was more than approximately 3 feet tall. So I guess he eliminated people who might be a threat against his tribes.
Yeah.
So Temujin's Mongol then defeat another rival tribes using a series of massive cavalry attacks, including all of the very brutality tactics. And by 1206, Temujin has also defeated the powerful Naiman tribe, then giving him control of central and eastern Mongolia. So the early success of the Mongol army owed much to brilliant military tactics of Temujin, or as of now, he was Genghis Khan, as well as his understanding of his enemies' motivations. He also employed an extensive spy network and was quick to adopt new technologies from his enemies. The well-trained Mongol army of about 80,000 fighters coordinate their advance with sophisticated signal system of smoke and burning torches. Large drums sounded commands to charge, and further orders were conveyed with flag signal. So
you can see that he tried to use the rival tactics and technologies.
Yeah, so the cause of his success come from his brilliant mind of how to wage a war.
Yes.
So every soldier was fully equipped with a bow, arrows, shield, dagger, and a lasso. He also carried large saddlebags for food and tools and spare clothes. So these are the very impressive tactics for people back then. The cavalrymen also carried small sword, javelins, body armor, and a lance with hook to pull enemies off their horses. The Mongols were devastating in their attacks because they could maneuver a galloping horse using only their legs. Their hands were free to shoot arrows. So not only good at war, they're good at horses, manipulate horse. So the entire army was followed by a well-organized supply system, and as well as military equipment, and officials to catalog the booty and everything. So following the victories over the rival Mongol tribes, other tribal leaders agreed to peace and bestow on Temujin the title Gengkiskhan, which means universal ruler. The title carried not only political importance but also spiritual significance.
Yeah.
So before we continue with the Gengkiskhan or the universal ruler, let's take a short break.
انت ما بحبش غيرك انت والدنيا عندي انت والدنيا عليك شوية
Welcome back to the show. Before the break, we talked about how Temujin becomes Gengkiskhan, and that was because his victories over the rival Mongol tribes, and he gathered all the rivals and become one Mongol empire.
Yeah.
So other tribal leaders agreed and bestowed upon him to have a title Gengkiskhan, which means universal rulers. But as I mentioned a bit earlier, Gengkiskhan encouraged the tolerance of religious practice.
Yeah.
However, religious tolerance was practiced in Mongol Empire, the defying great Gengkiskhan was equal to defying the will of God. So it was with such religious fervor that Gengkiskhan is supposed to have said to one of his enemies, like, I am the flail of God. If you had not committed great sins, God would not have sent a punishment like me upon you. So even though the a free will to practice any religions, Gengkiskhan still have one true power above all.
Yep.
Yes.
So he is the great warrior, I can say so. But I would like to stress something about his tactics.
Yes.
So he used war as an instrument, and he also used diplomacy, like us, to conquer another lands also.
Yes.
Yep, and about his major conquest, Genghis Khan wasted no time in capitalizing on his divine stature, while spiritual inspiration motivated his armies. The Mongols were probably driven as much by environmental circumstances. Food and resources were becoming scarce as the population grew. So it's a lack of the food. And the population began to grow and grow more. And then in 1207, he led his armies against the kingdom of Chixia. And after 2 years, forced to surrender.
Wow.
Then in 1211, Genghis Khan's army struck the Jin dynasty in the northern China, ruled not by the great cities, artistic and scientific wonders, but rather the seemingly endless rice fields and easy pickings of wealth.
Yes, I guess food is more important than art when you are in need of something to survive on.
Yeah. Although the campaign against the Jin dynasty lasted nearly 20 years, Genghis Khan's armies were also active in the West against border empires and the Muslim world. Initially, Genghis Khan used diplomacy to establish trade relations with the Khwarezm dynasty, a Turkish-dominated empire that included Turkestan, Persia, and Afghanistan.
Okay.
So, and then, but the Mongol diplomatic mission was attacked by the governor of Otar, who possibly believed the caravan was the cover for a spy mission. And can you imagine when the Genghis Khan heard about this?
I guess he is quite angry about it, right?
Yeah, of course, it's true. And he demanded the governor to be extradited him and send a diplomat to retrieve him. So that one is Shah Muhammad, the leader of the Khwarezm dynasty. And then this Shah refused the demand, but he sent back the heads of the Mongol diplomats.
Oh, this is the starting of the war.
Yeah, if you would like to declare war with
some send the head of their people, and then the war will start. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then this act released a fury that would sweep through Central Asia and into Eastern Europe. In 1219, Genghis Khan personally took control of planning and executing a three-pronged attack of about approximately 200,000 Mongol soldiers against the Khwarezm dynasty. The Mongols swept through every city's fortifications with unstoppable savagery. Those who weren't immediately slaughtered were driven in front of the Mongol army, serving as human shields when the Mongols took the next city. Then no living thing was spared, including small domestic animals and livestock. Schools of men, women, and children were piled in large pyramidal mounds. So it was a large amount of died people.
Yes.
Then the city was brought into its knees, and eventually the Shah Muhammad and later his son were captured and killed, bringing an end to the Khwarizm dynasty in 1221.
So this Khwarizm dynasty was quite a big one.
Yeah, very big. Well, it was great dynasty.
Yes, and the conquer of this dynasty later has been described as the period after the Khwarizm campaign as the Pax Mongolica. So the Pax means like the central of power at in some point of time, and in the and that area is the center of power. And in time, the conquest of Gengkiskhan connect the major trade centers of China and Europe, and the empire was governed by a legal code known as Yasa. Developed by Genghis Khan, the code was based on Mongol common law but contained edicts that prohibit blood sports, adultery, theft, and bearing false witness. So he basically come up with laws to rule the city.
Yep.
So with the annihilation of Khwarizm dynasty, Genghis Khan once again turned his attention east to China, and the Tangas of Xixia has defined his orders to contribute troops to the Khwarizm campaign and were in open revolt. In a string of victories against the Tanga cities, Genghis Khan defeats the enemy and then sacked the capital of Ningxia. So who against Genghis Khan was later eliminated. Yes. So I guess even the greatest man has his limit time on earth, as well as our time here. Genghis Khan died in 1227, soon after the submission of the Xixia. So the exact cause of his death is unknown, but with a lot of great and impressive stories about his war, the name Temujin and Genghis Khan still known until today and was in many history and studies around the world.
Yeah.
So thank you again for listening to us today. And we will come back next time with another interesting story to share. Goodbye. Have a nice day.
Have a nice day. สวัสดีค่ะ
أنا بقى